We will get to our program tonight. Sarah Vise is our presenter tonight, and Sarah earned her BA in Physics and Astronomy from Ball State. She was a planetarium assistant at the Charles Brown Planetarium, which we actually like to go to once a year in the spring. So there's a nice overlap right there. She's currently an educator at Science Central and is also currently a solar system ambassador with the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, part of NASA. And Sarah was a part of the, wait a minute, I think I somehow passed over one very important, did I say that you were the director of the planetarium at Science Central?
You said I was an educator, but
yeah, no, but you're a director is much more important. So I didn't mean to short you on that. I didn't write it down. You see, I followed a script and I tripped over my own writing. And most importantly, Sarah was a part of the 2025 Astronomy in Chile Educators Ambassador Program. And you know, when I first read that, I thought it said Ecuador. I don't know why. The country Chile, I thought Ecuador is, and that made no sense to me.
Close.
Until finally it dawned on me properly that it was Educator Ambassadors Program. And so she's going to now walk us through her adventure in some of the darkest skies in the entire world, or something close to that, given her trip and all of the exciting adventures that she must have had. So take it away. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much. Now, this is my presentation about the ACEP program, also known as the Astronomy in Chile Educator Ambassador Program. Now, here's where I think a lot of my background comes into maybe an issue. I am a big presenter and mingling with the audience, but I am hosted back here for the time being. So bear with me. I'm going to take you through my journey through Chile from beginning to end in chronological order. And I'm going to highlight some of the really cool scientific things that we did along the way. I have made a family tree, if you don't mind bearing with me. So the ACEAP, or I'll call it ASAP for right now, is the baby of two different organizations. First, we have the AUI, located on the left side of the screen. That's the Associated Universities Incorporated, founded in the 1940s. And they're like a research management corporation that builds and operates facilities for the research community. It's a nonprofit headquartered in Washington, D.C. And then over on the other side is another organization called AURA, which is the Association of the Universities for Research in Astronomy. And the abbreviations are just now getting started. Underneath AUI, there are several different facilities around the world that they manage, including in 2002, they picked up the ALMA Observatory, which is the Atacama Large Millimeter and Submillimeter Array. Then in 2015, they got the National Radio Astronomy Observatory, the NRAO, through a 10-year agreement. And then they have a bunch of other things like the Very Long Baseline Array, the Green Bank Observatory, North America ALMA Science Center, the VLA, and then the new Next Generation VLA, and like so much more. They're really, really big in their field. AURA, on the other hand, operates a large surrounding or very similar set of organizations like the NORI Lab, which we'll talk about here in a second, the National Solar Observatory, and then the Space Institute in Hawaii and DC, I believe. But this family tree is complicated, so I have a map of the NORI Lab facilities and the other facilities around the world operated by AURA. And there's just so many across the world. You'll see a lot of them are based in the United States, and a lot of them are based in Chile. And that's because US has a lot of money and Chile has really good skies. So you'll find these different organizations all over the world, and there's so many acronyms and abbreviations that I don't expect any of you to memorize it, and that is A-okay. All you got to know is that the NORI lab stands for the National Optical Infrared Astronomy Research Laboratory, and it is one of the premier facilities for ground-based research in nighttime optical and infrared astronomy. And then there's me. I am the child of ASAP. The family tree is complete. Yeah. And of course, we know that the National Science Foundation has its hands in all bits of research across the United States, especially the ties across the country or the world that United States has ties in, of course. And usually this position of mine was funded through the NSF, but because of recent budget cuts, I had to pay out of pocket for this. And that is all handy dandy. However, I think it's an important reminder that they do support 25% of federally funded research in the United States. And as a secondary reminder, in April of this year, all 24 members of the foundation's governing body were fired. Ugh. Anyway, the US has invested millions of dollars in astronomy infrastructure in Chile, and more in operations per year. And that is all to do with Chile's incredible characteristics: the low humidity, the high elevation, the clear skies, and just based on what we know is possible, international collaboration is key. You cannot do it without other people outside of your or inside of your country. So this program, the ACEAP, brings amateur astronomers, informal educators, planetarium personnel to US-funded Chile observatories, and they have two different goals in mind. One is to teach us about everything that is done at these facilities. The science, the engineering, the concept of teaching about STEM, and sharing their resources with us, just mere individuals, educators across the globe. But more importantly, goal 2 is to create a group of us, enough that are powerful enough to go out into the world and to share their resources, not just what these observatories are doing, but how it affects everyone, and not just about the very nitty-gritty things that they want to study, but how the broader science of radio astronomy or infrared astronomy can change throughout the world. Okay? This is Chile. It's on the map. This is its flag. It was a lot of fun. And I took a long journey covering 11-ish, 12-ish days through many different parts of Chile, but mostly mid-Chile. First, we have 4 different important areas to highlight. We have Santiago, the capital of Chile. That's where a lot of headquarters are. We have our second location where we have 3 telescopes: the Vera Rubin, the Gemini South, and the SOAR telescope. We'll have our third location where we have the CTIO, which includes a large variety of telescopes, including the Blanco, the SMARTS, and the Mushroom City. And I'll explain what all these are later. And then finally, our fourth and last destination was Alma in the Atacama Desert, the driest and highest place in the world. So let's meet our team. Of course, I was a part of this cohort, but several other people were also a part of this cohort. Anyone can apply across the globe, and we have to go through rigorous interview processes to get accepted to this program. And it was also a really intense application. So here are some of my pals that went along with me. We have Joy in the top left corner from Austin. Going to the right is Luke from Nashville, Ian from Maryland, Raquel from Mexico originally, but a Berlin transport for her planetary studies master. Bob from Denver down below on the lower left, Blake from North Carolina, Brandy from the Grand Canyon, and then Bob from San Francisco. A wide variety, all led by a native Chilean woman named Yasmin. She was a great leader. Our first day was honestly kind of boring. It was a lot of training and preparing, but we did get to learn via Zoom at the headquarters a lot of really cool things like astrophotography, what AUI is, what all the other acronyms are, some international partners in these projects I'm about to talk about that you don't necessarily think about, and some other initiatives for future projects that they're working on. It was very cool. And while I was in Santiago, I saw a cat. It lived on a trolley area or platform that was used to go up a mountain to a zoo on top of one of the mountaintops in Santiago. Oh no. There we go. There's that cat. It was a very good cat. After Santiago, we flew from the capital all the way to that top left corner in La Serena, a beachside city. It was actually very, very beautiful. The worst part about my trip, in case anyone's wondering, I accidentally went into the water, accidentally in quotes, and my shoes were wet for like 3 days straight. I didn't realize it would take that long to dry, but it was a beautiful, beautiful area. Right off the bat of La Serena, we drove maybe 30 minutes or so to a tourist observatory called Alpha Aldea in a city called Vicuña. And it was like an Airbnb that you could be or live at on a vineyard. Vineyards are very popular in Chile. And it was such a humbling and personal journey to start out this massive tour. With everything so big in our future, this really showed us why everything we learned throughout the journey matters, and how it connects to individuals in Chile, how it connects to individuals across the globe. And I saw another cat. It lived on the Airbnb, and they gave us plenty of pisco sour, which is their South America frothy drink made of a brandy with made of grapes. It was very good. But that was the very first night we got some dark skies. And going from left to right, the first photo is what I took with my phone. And that was pretty much what we saw. And then the next two photos I got with my Sea-Star. I gotta be honest, that was the first time using my Sea-Star. So I didn't really know what I was doing, but I had a lot of people that knew what they were doing to help me out. So we have the running chicken nebula in the center, and then the spider globular cluster on the right side. Though these skies were pretty clear, it was still a relatively cloudy night. If any of you keep up to date with Bortle sky numbers, it was a roughly 2 or 3, but very cloudy still. And I got more. We had a ton of time to do this. I got the Whirlpool Galaxy on the left. You can see some of the features. If you want to get up close later, you can. We have the Jewel Box Cluster in the middle, and then Omega Centauri on the right. They're very cool things. With all the clouds, we were really having to battle between, do we look for just Southern Hemisphere things to image, or do we kind of just take what we can get? And a lot of this is take what you could get. After that very fun night, we drove to first an area called Cerro Pachón, which was maybe 2-3 hour drive away from La Serena, and we saw the Gemini South. The Gemini South telescope is the same exact telescope as Gemini North here in North America, in Hawaii specifically. I don't know how many numbers you want to hear, but it was 2,700 meters in elevation in the Andes. The Gemini South is an 8.1 meter telescope, and it is mainly optical and infrared. I have a lot of numbers if you want to hear about the focal length and the thickness of the glass and how it was coated in silver. But more importantly, this telescope explores objects like planet hosting stars, how stars are born, binary star systems, and then fast cosmic events like gamma ray bursts. And all of what is studied here kind of just depends on what was proposed to the observatory. And it's all mapped out with a lot of professionals that know how to schedule things. And that was very, very fun.
What altitude?
2,700 meters was my altitude.
Yeah, it's almost 8,000 feet.
Really high up.
Yeah. How's the breathing up there?
Breathing there was fine, but
Well, maybe
a couple slides from now, we'll get to where the breathing started getting bad.
Yeah.
The next telescope we visited was SOAR, which stands for Southern Astrophysical Research Telescope. As opposed to Gemini, this is a 4-meter optical and near-infrared telescope. And because it's smaller, we can use it for very agile, very small scope things, and it's used for rapid spectroscopy. Again, lots of numbers if you want to know about it, but it was a huge telescope, and it was really, really overwhelming just to be in its presence.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like an LTAS mount. Is that an LTAS
mount? Yes. And then finally, the peak of intimidating was the Vera Rubin Observatory. I get chills just thinking about it. So this is jointly funded by the National Science Foundation and the U.S. Department of Energy. It's a brand new astronomy and astrophysics facility. Its first observations were just released last June, or June of 2025. So I was the second group in the ASAP program to see this, but the first one since research had been released, which was so nice. It is named after the American astronomer Vera Rubin, who pioneered her discoveries in rotation rates of galaxies. And this was just so cool. It is a wide view reflecting telescope. It's about 8.4 meter telescope. And it is recording all of the sky. It is a survey telescope. So it is taking all the images of the sky, and all of those images are recorded on the largest digital camera ever built, 3.2 gigapixel CCD camera, whatever that means. So
that's pixels, not bytes, right? That's pixels.
Gigapixel.
Oh my.
Yeah. So just as a reference, they are taking detailed images of the southern hemisphere sky for 10 years straight. They are covering the entire night sky in just a couple of days, taking an image every 40 seconds. So they have a lot of data to store. And they are creating an ultra-wide, ultra-high definition time-lapse or movie of astronomy, of outer space. And they are really digging into some of the mysteries like of dark energy and dark matter and things that we don't even have the capability to imagine yet, which is so exciting.
Sarah, do you know the limiting magnitude of the telescope?
Limiting magnitude?
Yeah, how dim can it go?
I know that.
I don't know. Okay.
I'll touch on some of why I don't know all the technical things yet. Someday I will. Specifically, they have 4 main things that we're looking forward to them completing. 1, we're trying to understand the nature of dark matter and dark energy, like I said. 2, we're trying to create an inventory of the solar system, including near-Earth asteroids, you know, in case things get close to us. We're trying to map the Milky Way galaxy, more detailed than ever before. And then we are exploring objects that change brightness over long periods of time, at least over the course of 10 years. And it was so cool and so big, and we saw wild horses too. We drove from that region where all three of those telescopes were to an area called Cerro Tololo, where there were a couple of other observatories and horses. First, we went to the SMART telescope, which they are 4 1-meter telescopes that you can just rent, apparently. You can rent them for $250, I think, a night or an hour. Not that bad if you're trying to go out to Chile. But I met some interesting folks along the way, including Dr. Todd Henry of Georgia State University, who led the RECONS team. RECON stands for Research Consortium on Nearby Stars. And our students over here gave us a wonderful presentation about what they were studying. And it was just so fun. They were focused on different kinds of stars found in our Milky Way. Approximately 86% of all stars in our Milky Way. And they had this graphic that I just love. I think it's so interesting. It talks about, can I get rid of this up here, maybe? I don't know if I can hide this. There we go. Statistics of stars within a certain distance away from Earth, 10 parsecs. And it talks about ratios of different kinds of stars in our Milky Way. Most of the stars that we have in our Milky Way are M-type stars. That's the red stars. The least amount of stars that we have in our Milky Way are white dwarfs and A-type stars. And I just loved this cool little graphic. I even have a sticker on my water bottle with it. But they were just incredible. I loved talking to students. They were so passionate and so accomplished. Below. There we go. Then we have Mushroom City, or Mushroom Farm as they call it. These are a cluster of small dome robotic telescopes located on the summit off to the side, and there were like 20 of them, and everyone across the country had a little piece of them. You could find a little telescope with the sticker Korea on it, or Japan, or a specific university. You just can claim some of these, which is so cool. I was just kind of wandering around seeing what I could find, but we couldn't go in any of them because they are privately operated. About the same as the last place. It's roughly the same elevation. So yeah, 6,000 feet or so, I think is what we said.
What size of scopes are?
All different, or they're all different. All the sizes of telescopes in Mushroom City are different. And like some of these, the folks that operate at this facility and like live in here, some of these telescopes, they never even touch because they are so privately operated. So these can be changed out however that person or that organization or university wants.
Yeah, I just wondered if
Wide range of telescope size, but not really sure about like the specific range. Then we have the Blanco telescope, which is, I think, one of the more famous telescopes on this little area. It was named after Victor M. Blanco, a Puerto Rican astronomer who was also the director of the CTIO, the general area that I am at. There's also a twin of Blanco in Kitt Peak, Arizona. It's a 4-meter telescope, and it's part of the Dark Energy Survey. So it's looking at visible and near infrared light. And it is using a lot of their instrument power to focus on dark matter, dark energy, including our lovely little guest speaker over here, Alexander. He was a student at Yale, PhD student. He is studying galaxies that are just being born. And he was very accomplished as well. But they got to open up the dome for us, and we got to see out beyond the dome. And that was really, really spectacular as well. Oh, another photo. It was huge. It was so big. We all had to wear hard helmets. We all had to wear like high vis something. Very incredible stuff. And then at Ceratololo, we also got free time to explore at night and do astrophotography because that's where they do it. So we got to sneak up to where the telescopes actually are and sit right in between the three that we just saw and kind of stay hidden from the light coming from the dorm rooms we stayed in. So I've got 2 additional photos. We have the spider globular cluster. I think that was a recreation of what I tried to do in the first set of photos. And then we have the Lagoon Nebula as well.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty cool. Now, here's the thing. Even though those were probably some of the best skies we should have seen, they were mostly cloudy. I think we had maybe 3 hours of cloud-free nights. Chile has 300 clear nights a year, and at this rate, we've hit 4 or 5 of the cloudy nights. It was very bad luck. We got some cool stuff in the meantime. My favorite parts up to this point were the condors that we saw, which are funny enough indicators of bad weather. They like to ride the humidity up. So if you spot a condor in Chile, you can understand that it might not be a clear observing night. And we saw upwards of 8 total, which is unheard of, apparently. I also really liked learning about the Mapuche people. Their flag is in the top right corner. They are the largest indigenous group in Chile, making up over like 80% of the country. And our leader, Yasmin, was part of the Mapuche people. So she taught us all about their stories and their astronomy. And I just think that's really, really spectacular because if you know anything about a lot of indigenous cultures and their astronomy, they typically focus on the dark regions of the sky, not necessarily the bright stars and the bright clusters, but they focus on the dark patches blocked out by gas. And all of the astronomy observatories we've seen so far have also been studying some of the darker regions of the sky. They don't focus just on stars or the bright things, they focus on the same thing that the people that live there have been studying for ages. And then finally, the sunsets were just gorgeous. It should be known I got no sleep. I woke up to saw the sunrise. I explored throughout the day. I stayed up all night to do astrophotography. It was very, very good. Okay, after that point, we flew to a city called Calama. And that is when we started to study radio astronomy at ALMA. ALMA is in the San Pedro Atacama Desert, which again is one of the highest and driest places in the world. It's very well suited for astronomy research. So when we got to this facility, we were staying at the dorm site or the low site, if you will, because when we talk about the high site, you'll soon understand why people can't live there. At the low site, we had a lot of, again, presentations, trainings, yada, yada, learning about the facility, including one of the local transplant professors. His name was John Carpenter, like the movie director, if you know, but it unfortunately wasn't the John Carpenter. But he was very cool because he was learning about star-forming regions. He had been up there for several months learning about him. And then we also had a great discussion with a lot of the local employees of ALMA, and not just the scientists, like the engineers, the people that work on specific parts of ALMA, specifically the cars that drive up the antennas that we're about to see, the people that program, the people that like are field workers. It was very, very cool. One of my favorites, he's in the right photo, is one of our tour guides, Danilo. He was a lovely tour guide. And I saw a donkey. Actually, I saw many donkeys at the dorm or the residence area. Back in the 70s, a lot of people had donkeys in like a efficient way. They were using them. But then humans abandoned these donkeys. And I guess when you leave donkeys to do their own thing, they like to reproduce and stick around a while and also become really aggressive when you do. So this one was blocking me from getting breakfast. You couldn't go near them. I saw them get very aggressive with some locals. So when we talk about ALMA, it is radio astronomy. So we're going to see some really big antennas, just like you would see on your house. And you might be wondering, how do they work on these things and transport these things? They got big trucks. They got super big trucks. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 14 wheels. They were enormous. And we got to like crawl around on them and pretend that we were driving them. We had fun, but we learned a lot about like the mechanics of them all. And a selfie. Why would I not do that? But just the intricacy was so cool. We got to tour their laboratory facility at the Low site or the residence area. And truly, that was just a wild thing because there were scientists actively working on things in a very sterile environment, gloves, masks, aprons and everything. And we were just kind of walking around, taking photos, probably getting too close to things like this, things we don't even know what they do, but we were having a good time. I wish I knew what that was, and I wish I could share it with you. It was just really impressive. There was so much to take in that you just couldn't take in all of it. The sunsets and the topography of this region in the Atacama Desert was amazing. It was a flat plain about, I think it was 14,000 feet up, really high up. And because we had been working up to this elevation, it was fine on the human body, at least for me. But we were on a flat plain really, really high up in all different directions. There are volcanoes scattered around, 8 or 9 of them, some in Chile, some in Bolivia, some in Argentina. It was really, really special. And scattered throughout the landscape were donkeys. And of course, Daniela, my tour guide, he was, I think, just a little bit more beautiful than the sunset. Finally, the clouds broke. I got my very first clear night ever. Truly, it was spectacular. These 2 photos were just from my phone, and I saw the Milky Way for the first time ever. I hate to say it. I wish I were more well-traveled. This was the first time. Wow. It was from my phone.
Wow.
It was, I hate to say it. It was, sorry. I'm stepping on the cable. It was stupid how cool this was. I stayed up so late.
Maybe you just.
I get it.
Hey, so how long of an exposure is that? So like 10 seconds or 5 seconds?
This was a 10-second exposure with my phone.
So did you have a tripod or something, or just
held it in my hand?
And
I have an iPhone 13, 16. I actually don't know what kind, but
yeah,
it was just perfect. It was incredible.
wow.
But with the Sea Star as well, we got on the left side, the Fighting Dragons of Ara Nebula. Really cool, but I don't see any dragons here. Also known as the Firebird Nebula. And then we had the Cat's Paw Nebula on the right. These were really, really fun.
Yeah.
So we stayed up really late because that was like the perfect night. But we also had to prepare for the next morning where we were about to go up to the high site. 16,500 feet above sea level. We had to do a health inspection, get our blood pressure taken, our vitals taken, just to make sure we were healthy enough to go up and not pass out. So intense that they even like recommended we don't drink coffee for 48 hours leading up to it, which I didn't follow. Of course I didn't. And people were like taking blood pressure medication just to make sure they could go up. And we were all really scared because at that time, of all the trips that have been taken in the ASAP program, there's at least been one person that's failed. And I was scared. I mean, I'm young and spry and whatever, but it could have been me. However, when we drove before we drove, we went from the low site on the left all the way to the high site on the right. 16,500 meters. Oh, feet, sorry, above the sea level. And we all passed. We all passed our health inspection. And this is what ALMA really is. It's the most powerful radio telescope on Earth right now. It is a collaboration between not just the people and organizations I've mentioned. There's also the European Space Agency, the National Astronomical Observatory of Japan, and of course the Republic of Chile. It's well known that radio waves give us a lot of information about cosmic origin. So we are very, very interested in how everything came to be using these. So the special technique that these telescopes can do is that each one of these dishes, I have they're 12-meter diameter dishes, and individual ones act as single interferometers. So they can act as a single telescope by themselves, but they can also be spread out over the course of 16 kilometers, essentially giving us the same resolution as having a 16-kilometer diameter telescope. And they use these 66 antennas in a wide variety and arrangement and configuration, again, based on those proposals that they get from researchers across the world. Some of them use all 66, some of them only use one, and they are really good at, again, managing and coordinating all of these projects together. And that's my trip to ALMA. It was really, really fun. I had no trouble breathing, but they did supply us with oxygen, as you saw. My favorite part of ALMA? You probably would guess it. I saw a really fun animal called a vicuña, which is part of the llama family. I saw like 10 of these throughout the trip, driving up and down the mountain. They were very, very cute. So that was the end of our official scientific journey, and we did a lot of learning, though I think I maybe made it seem like we just had a lot of fun. We did both. After that point, we went to a reserve around the area. I could still see ALMA from where we were staying, but this is a an environmental conservation project. And it's, I think, not hard to explain, but I just get speechless when I think about it, because this organization is really focusing a lot on culture, environment, social, and economic impacts of everything to do with Chile, specifically the flora, the fauna, and the astronomy, the tourist side of astronomy, and bringing more money and information and just visibility to the Atacama Desert and what kind of things you can find there that are trying to be preserved. So this was a network of parks that had a couple of Airbnb style houses, but it was mainly used for scientific research, environmental education, and we were there learning about astronomy and the cultural aspect of it. What else? Oh, the big forest that was like the main attraction of this was the Chanar tree. There are very fun videos of me scrolling through this forest, but it is the largest naturally preserved forest of this kind of tree, which was very, very exciting. And they really take it seriously. But really, we went there to learn about not just the trees. We had a wonderful tour guide named Carmelo. I don't have a picture of Carmelo, but he was one of the indigenous people of the Atacama Desert people. And he told us, well, oh man, he was a good host. He treated us to lovely appetizers and a lot of pisco sour, guys, a lot. And he told us the stories of his people, the dark sky or dark parts of the sky, some of their constellation stories. We got to play instruments with him. He brought out his native tribes instruments, including sort of like guitars, things that looked like tambourines. And we sat around a bonfire and we all shared our stories and our memories of the trip. And this was my favorite part of everything. This was, just like I said in the beginning, this was such a humbling and personal end to the journey of astronomy in Chile. It was so just personal to me. We were not looking at anything other than ourselves and laughing amongst ourselves, and of course, taking astrophotography. This was a really, really dark sky, and the longest exposure I had, M7, Ptolemy's cluster, and it was, oh, you can't see it. It was like a 2-hour exposure, which just kind of is overwhelming. And the fun part is, I don't remember taking this because I was dancing and having fun and drinking pisco sours. That's the cool thing about sea stars. You can just do whatever you want in the meantime. After that, we went to the National Flamingo Reserve as well. They live on a bunch of salt flats, and 3 of the 6 species of flamingos across the world live in Chile. And this was a very well protected area of the water was really cool. In fact, I took up close photos of some of the water and the salts and how they were reacting to each other. The colors, I could do a whole presentation on the colors of Chile. We went to a meteorite museum in one of the local towns, as that desert is one of the world's richest and most important regions for finding and studying meteorites because of the dry climate, not destroying any of the meteorites preserved. We celebrated the winter solstice while you all were celebrating the summer solstice here by, again, drinking a lot of pisco sour and having a really good time at local bars. Lots of traditional singers and dancers. And so interesting, that very far right photo told a story, and we had no idea what that story was as we were watching it, but there were these 2 dancers dancing and telling a story of an Andean mythology or a folklore about a spider and the devil. And that is the representation of the devil, which looks really cool and looks like a transformer, I think. So instead of like a natural or like a yin and yang that we might experience, a good and a bad, this story of the spider and the devil represented like an intricate balance of the cosmos and the complementary duality of good and bad, or dark and light. So the spider was associated with water and the connection between the sky, the earth, and the underworld. And through the spider's webs, she strung together constellations in the sky. And then the devil figure, Tupe, was sort of introduced at the same time as Catholicism to Chile, which I think is really interesting, the reflex of religion in these stories as well. So he represents not an absolute evil, but more of a necessary dark half to balance out the light half. He's intertwined with the spider, and when you have light, you have shadow, of course. fertility requires decay and death. It was just so interesting. I like that one. That was a funny comment. We ended our trip at the US Embassy in Chile, where we got to speak to a lot of different citizens, educators, and a couple of US representatives about our trip. We had to say our introductions in Spanish, and most of these people laughed in my face because I do not speak Spanish all that well, but I tried my best, which is all that matters. But it's not about the end, it's about the journey, right? The friends we made along the way, including the birds. The one photo I did not take is the one in the background here. My friend Bob took it, of the Tarantula Nebula. It was one of my goals, but I didn't get to do it, but I wanted to share his anyway. We had so much fun and learned so much. And it was just a once-in-a-lifetime experience, even though we spent a lot of nights partying. It was really incredible. Now, here's where I'm going to get a little personal, maybe oversharing a little bit. But this would not be a story without my personal side of things. When I got home from Chile, it was a red-eye flight, 11 hours or so. I ended a 14-year-long relationship. It was not expected. It really took me aback. Of course, I wasn't prepared. And I'm still not prepared, as I don't have all those technical questions that you were asking earlier. I don't have any resources to share with you yet. I just wasn't prepared, and I haven't been for the last 2 months. And even despite all of that, and despite all of this, I lost the big picture, the scientific picture, why all of this mattered. Because when you're experiencing something, none of this matters. It doesn't. What it did for me through the last 2 months, though, was highlighted the individual connections that I've made on this trip and the importance of the idea of sharing. Not just like something surface level or superficial, but like the idea of connecting and educating and sharing your knowledge and your passion with anyone that you can get, because none of this matters without us. None of it does. Scientists don't care about learning it for themselves. They care about learning it for all of us. And my goodness, it just really drove home a poignant thing that we know so much about the past. We know so much, and we're so excited to learn more. But you don't know what tomorrow holds. You don't know. And that's what I'm taking away from all of this. All of what they are trying to learn highlights, of course, our past, but it tells us where we're going. And I think that is very special to me. And that's where I'll jump back into professional self. That's the end of my presentation. Overall, I had a really fun trip. It's been a weird 2 months ever since getting back, and sometime soon I'm going to create, as per my goal of this program, a toolkit for anyone to use if they're interested in all of the resources that were provided to me throughout this trip. And that could be images from the Vera Rubin. That could be a hands-on craft that you can do with your younger sibling or a family friend. Everything that I learned, I'm going to come back and not just share it as the presenter. I'm going to hand it off so each of you can also be your own individual advocate for this science. So I wish I had it for you now, but I don't. And I don't feel that bad. I'll get it to you eventually. It's been several weeks of, dealing with life. But that's it. Thank you all so much.
Any questions for Vera? Sarah.
How long were you at 16,000?
The question for those on Zoom was, how long was I at 16,500 feet? Only about 30 minutes or so. We drove up to the high site with our oxygen tanks on. That trip took about 30 minutes or so. We got outside for 30 minutes and we got to take photos. It was pretty much like the social media influencer time that we all got, because you can't really do anything up there except be really, really cold. It was like, I don't know what temperature it was. It was way below freezing and the wind was crisp. So we were happy that it was only 30 minutes, because after that point, we were ready to go back downstairs. But the workers of ALMA, they only stay up there for a couple hours at a time before they have to go back down. So they have a really strict health rotation policy.
You didn't try taking your mask off?
I did not try taking my mask off. I did it in the car because it was like getting really condensated inside, and like you had to at least wipe the gross off. I was very tempted though. I think I could have done it. I'm built different, right?
The Europeans are building that extremely large reflector. Was that near any place you were there? I think
It was not near enough that we visited.
okay.
And I don't even think that it is at the point where anyone could visit. I heard a lot of talk about the construction process and not much else. But we were strictly sticking to observatories where US has ties. And I don't know if US has ties to that one, but no. I wish I would have gone to the very large telescope if I had.
Wikipedia says it's 70% done.
70%. Maybe the next year's cohort. So if you have any questions about how to apply, come talk to me afterwards.
Or the ambassadorship that you did here, or I don't know if it's a certification, does it lead you to something else in this worldly adventure of international astronomy?
So after completion, you are part of every single, or a big group of every single ambassador. And each of us has our feet planted everywhere around the world. And that's the biggest perk on my end in terms of like physical, tangible things. I get this network that I didn't have before. Could open up jobs or projects or research, whatever. I did this for myself. I did this for the experience to travel, to see dark skies, to get to know a different culture, all under the umbrella of astronomy, which, as you know, is my main driving force in life. So that's why I did it. And no certification, but it's a great resume piece. Martin.
Yeah, so I just finished a class called The Bold Science Enabled by Engineering, and it's focused a lot about the strategy involved with engineering implementations, ground-based and space-based. Vera Rubin is one of those observatories, wide field astronomy, that was looked at. It was also talked about how there's a collaborative strategy between the space-based observatories like James Webb Space Telescope and then soon Nancy Grace Roman. Mm-hmm. Do you know kind of where the Vera Rubin fits into that strategy, like as far as like distributed astronomy? So some ideas were Vera Rubin does survey the sky, James Webb can zoom in on a specific area. Is that, do you know kind of the overarching strategy that they're going to implement?
No specific strategy in mind, but as like the connecting force between all of them, I'm going back to that map at the beginning. There we go. So all of the observatories that you just mentioned are monitored under that AURA. I cannot get all the acronyms straight. So they're in charge of the Vera Rubin, Gemini, Blanco. They are also in charge of, up at the top, the Space Telescope Science Institute, which does Hubble, James Webb, Nancy. So I don't know where that all fits in, but they're all managed under the same umbrella. So somewhere along the way, I just don't have that specific detail for you.
Crazy how all this stuff works together.
There's a lot of intricate pieces. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank you. I think we're all going. So, it's a good presentation on your part. I have a couple of questions. One for you. Secondly, Vera Rubin view in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Vera Rubin was in the U.S. Lowell a lot. I know that. I don't know exactly where she worked, but I know she was prominent in Lowell Observatory.
And then, what was the link?
So looking back at the calendar, this is including travel time. It was a long trip. I was gone from Thursday, June 11th, and I got back Wednesday, June 24th. So many days. That's also including travel, of course, which was about a full day. I slept great on the flights. Yeah, really good.
a lot of people.
Not me. I can conk out whenever. All right. Please let me know if you have any additional questions that you think of later. Okay. Thank you again. Okay. Before I forget, all of my trinkets that I brought back. Unfortunately, Zoom, you cannot see it. All of the trinkets I brought back from the Atacama Desert are up at the front table. So if you are curious about what I brought back, I have a palette of paint made from the sand of the Atacama Desert. I have
You can
two.
move the camera over there and display them.
I'm just trying to get this back to an easy view.
Can't zoom, but you could pick them
Paint
up and
made from the sand of the Atacama Desert. Two jewelry pieces, choker necklaces made up of lapis and malachite. Very cool. Bought them from street vendors. I have a book in Spanish about the flora fauna of Chile, an astronomical guide also in Spanish. And then I brought this little guy. He's a little llama made of actual llama fur. And believe it or not, I have 6 of these at home. I just brought one. Not pictured up here is the shot glass I bought with a little vicuña on it because I had to. Anyway, that's the official end. You can ask questions, come up and look at any of these. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. Excellent. Quite an adventure, I'll tell you.
Quite an adventure.
Yeah. Astronomical adventures are always exciting, whether it's down to Texas or even further south.
And what I will
Pretty good
say is
stuff.
all those people also do Mission Patagonia, which takes you to the southern reaches of Chile. And it's all about conservation of the environment and animals and plants. And that's where I'll go next time I save up enough money.
Well, very good. All right, that wraps us up for tonight. Excellent, thank you. And come out on Saturday,